Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if your baby is seeing the world the same way other babies do, or why some things might capture their attention more than others? Well, this new research dives deep into just that, exploring how our cultural backgrounds might actually be shaping what our little ones look at, right from the start. It turns out that the way babies look at things, what scientists call visual attention, might not be as simple or as universal as we once thought. For years, researchers have used how long a baby looks at something as a way to understand how their minds are working, how they learn, and what they're picking up from the world. Think of it like this: babies can't tell us what they're thinking, so we watch where they look. But there has been a big assumption that this looking behavior is kind of neutral, like a blank slate that is the same for every baby no matter where they grow up. This paper challenges that idea big time. The core idea here is that vision isn't just about what is in front of your eyes. It is deeply connected to your experiences. And guess what shapes our experiences more than anything else? Culture, the environments we grow up in, the people we interact with, the languages we hear, all of it builds the framework for how we see and process the world. And the researchers here are arguing that this strongly influences even the earliest forms of attention in infants. So, what did they do? They didn't run a single experiment. Instead, they looked at a whole bunch of studies that have already been done. They gathered evidence from research comparing babies in different countries, babies exposed to different languages, and babies from different socioeconomic backgrounds. They wanted to see if there were common patterns. Let's start with the cross-national stuff. Imagine showing the same set of pictures or videos to babies in, say, the United States and China. What they found is that the babies didn't always look at things in the same way. For example, older toddlers, around 24 months old, from the US were more likely to focus on objects when they saw new actions, while babies from China were more drawn to new action. It's like they were tuned into different aspects of the scene. Another fascinating finding comes from comparing babies in Japan and the United States. Even with simple things like faces or cartoons, Japanese babies tended to pay more attention to the background details, while us babies focused more on the main subject. And get this pattern even showed up in what their mothers were doing. Mothers in Japan were more likely to point out background details to their babies. It suggests that the social environment, how parents interact with their babies, plays a huge role. And it is not just about what we see them looking at, but how their brains are processing it. Studies using brainwave measurements like EEG with 12-month-olds in Austria and Japan showed that Austrian babies had stronger brain signals for processing objects, while Japanese babies showed stronger signals for processing background information. This gives us a peek into the brain's wiring even before they can tell us what they're thinking. Now, what about language? This is a really interesting one. We often think of language as a separate thing, but the researchers found that growing up bilingual, speaking more than one language, can actually change a baby's visual attention. Bilingual babies, compared to monolingual babies, seem to get used to things faster. In one study, 6-month-old bilingual babies in Singapore learned new visual patterns faster and were quicker to notice something new or different. They were more drawn to novelty. This suggests that constantly switching between languages might train their brains to process information more broadly and to pick up on changes more rapidly. Another study found that bilingual babies could shift their attention away from something they were looking at more quickly than babies who only heard one language. This ability to quickly disengage and then re-engage attention might be an adaptation to environments where things are constantly changing, like when you are navigating two different languages and cultures. Another important aspect is interracial experience. Studies have shown that babies who grow up in areas where they see people of different races more often tend to be less biased towards faces of their own race. For instance, 3-month-olds who live in environments with a mix of races actually show less preference for faces of their own race compared to babies who live in more racially uniform environments. This suggests that the diversity of faces infants encounter can shape their early attentional biases, not just for faces, but potentially for other things too. Now, what about socioeconomic status, or SS? This refers to things like family income and parental education, which often reflect differences in the resources and environments available to children. Researchers have found that SS can also influence infant attention. In one study, infants from higher SS backgrounds were more likely to have sustained, goal-directed attention. Their focus would sharpen when the play environment got more complex. Infants from lower SS backgrounds, on the other hand, sometimes showed more off-task looking and didn't adjust their focus as much when things changed. However, the picture with SS isn't always straightforward. Sometimes what looks like a difference might be an adaptation. For example, in environments that are more chaotic or unpredictable, babies might develop a style of attention that involves more vigilance or a broader sampling of information, rather than just sustained focus. This pattern might look different depending on the specific task. So putting it all together, what is the big takeaway from all this research? The paper really emphasizes that infant visual attention is not a fixed universal trait. Instead, it's a dynamic system that's shaped by a baby's experiences, culture, language, and socioeconomic background, all play a role in how infants learn to focus, shift their attention, and process the world around them. It is not about saying one way is better than another, but recognizing that these differences are meaningful adaptations to different environments. This is why the researchers are proposing what they call an acculturated model of infant visual attention. This means we need to think about attention not just as an internal brain process, but as a system that's constantly interacting with the cultural environment. It's like the baby's attention system is getting tuned by the specific statistical, social, and communicative patterns of their everyday life. This new way of thinking doesn't throw out what we already know about how attention develops. Instead, it suggests we need to combine those ideas with a deeper understanding of cultural influences. It's about seeing how our innate abilities for attention work together with the specific cultural input we receive over time to create the unique attentional patterns we see in individuals. A key point is that factors like language, SES, or national context aren't simple causes on their own. They are proxies for complex constellations of experiences. For example, being bilingual often means growing up in an environment with more varied social interactions, different communication styles, and perhaps more unpredictable input. So, the attentional differences seen in bilingual infants are likely an adaptation to this whole package of experiences, not just the languages themselves. The paper also highlights a practical issue: how researchers report their findings. For a long time, details about the cultural background, language spoken at home, and socioeconomic status of the infant studied were often left out. This made it hard to understand how these factors might be influencing the results. Thankfully, there is a growing movement to standardize how this information is collected and reported, which will lead to more robust and generalizable research. And this brings us to measurement. When we compare attention between babies from different cultures, we have to be sure that the way we're measuring attention, like how long they look at something, actually means the same thing in both groups. This is called measurement invariance, and it is super important for making fair comparisons. For example, a longer look might mean something different in one context than another. The paper stresses that we can't just assume our measures are universally understood by infant brains. Finally, the researchers point to big collaborative projects, like the Many Baby Studies, as a way forward. These projects involve many researchers from different parts of the world, all using the same methods to study a large and diverse group of babies. This kind of teamwork is crucial for testing these new, acculturated models of infant attention, and for understanding how the vast diversity of infants' lived experiences shapes their visual world. So, what does this all mean for us? It tells us that our babies are not just mini-scientists discovering the world from scratch. They are active participants whose developing brains are being shaped by the unique cultural landscape they are born into, right from the earliest moments. This research helps us appreciate that the way babies look at the world is a rich tapestry woven from their experiences. It encourages us to be more mindful of the diverse environments and experiences that shape all children. What are your thoughts on this? Do you see any of these patterns in how children pay attention? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this fascinating, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more deep dives into the science of the mind, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.